More physical skills would be great. Right now, it's just Javelin and Rampage. Yeah, but I only want to add skills. I only want to add skills when they make sense, when they're different. And we say it's only Javelins, but you got 3 different Javelins, or whatever it is. 4 different with the sight one. And like at the end of the day, here's the thing with these games. Here's the thing. You can trick players into thinking that they're doing something different and all of these things. But at the end of the day, in all of these games, you want to do as much damage as possible and you want to take as little damage as possible. True? Then the game presents you with different ways of doing the damage. And then you choose whichever one you like. And so the only difference is, how do you get there? Is it by aiming and kiting with a fire shot or fireball? Or is it by swinging your sword? If you really boil it down is what I'm talking about. And what's important to me is to not add something that plays the exact same as something else. So for example, we could add a darkness orb that shoots a big darkness orb that does damage. And then we can have modifiers on your gear that increases darkness damage. But now you just become a stat stick. Because the darkness orb is essentially just a fireball, but it's called something different, and you will have to chase a different attribute on your gear. So rather than doing anything like that, I'm trying to be unique, have less abilities, but be unique in them. And a lot of this is going to make a lot more sense when we get to etchings, because a lot of things exists or can exist when etchings exists. Because we can have different abilities, or abilities will change with etchings, right? So for example, we have an etching called Rapid Fire, and what it does is it will take the javelin, the basic javelin, only the basic javelin ability, and every time you fire it, it will fire three javelins instead of just one, rapidly, like this, brrrt, like a minigun, right? And now it's changed the ability completely. Let's say we want to add another range skill, right? And so, how can we add another range skill and have it be different enough for it to make sense? This is the important. So let's add a bow skill. Well, what's different with the bow skill to the javelin? And considering that we are mixing in etchings, does this make sense? Like, I don't want to add things just to have more fancy names for things if they do the same thing. I'd rather like add etchings that enhances javelin and changes how it feels, because it becomes less confusing for new players. Boomerang? Yeah, so like, let's say a boomerang skill. That's actually a good idea because it would play differently. Maybe it could be, and I'm not saying we can't do this or that we shouldn't do this. Maybe it could be something like this, right? A boomerang skill. Costs, like, does more damage than javelin. So the baseline is higher damage, costs more mana. But if you catch the boomerang, it refunds the mana. That would be cool. That would be different. That would require the player to change the way they play. I like that. Here comes the crux, though. Isn't it better to add that as an etching? That reads, turns javelin into a boomerang, which when caught, refunds its mana cost. Maybe not. Maybe it is different enough. I do like this boomerang idea. Or throwing axe. Yeah, throwing axe. Oh, you mean throwing axe instead of, like, take the item axe and make it into a throwing axe? It would kind of fit the lore to make axes throwable. As in, you throw them once and they break and you never have to look at them again. Fine, the axes would have a purpose though. Okay, so here's the problem with having an item that you throw and do damage with. It's always going to be the balance. Why would you ever not have an axe with you to throw? If it has no cost. Let's say that it costs a little bit of durability of the axe to throw it. Why would you ever not do that? It's just better to have it with you. And yeah, it's hard for me to explain. It's a very difficult thing to implement because it changes the core fundamental of the game. Why would you go into javelins if you could have an axe that you could throw for free? And if it costs mana, why does it cost mana? What's different then? Throwing axe has no melee. Yeah, but the thing is we don't have one weapon slot. Like, you can't compare it to other games because people will just bring, like, people already bring multiple weapons for different purposes into the vault, right? So, like, we can't balance it taking up a slot because it doesn't really take up a slot. Well, it takes up a slot, but you have so many slots that it's fine. Where's the balance element? If we had a weapon slot that you couldn't change inside a vault, then that would be different. But we voted about that internally about a year ago, and there was a no from the team. With good reasons. So, to wrap this up with the different abilities, I want to say this, and I want to say that I, of course, am an enjoyer of choices. I just want to make sure that the choices we have inside the game for how you play the game are actually different enough, while allowing the player to build combos and stuff like this.